I want to start off with this.
There's yet another school shooting in America yesterday in which 4 people were murdered, 9 injured. Many of those killed and injured were students killed by another student, in this case, a 14-year-old boy who, because he lives in Georgia, is being tried as an adult. I'm so fucking sick of this, I have to tell you. I don't even know why we bother talking about it anymore. Nothing ever gets done because this country has been held hostage by gun fanatics. Republicans who are entirely beholden to the NRA, a terrorist organization, and voters who seem to think that their right to own a gun is greater than our right to have our children be alive.
Mary is absolutely correct. It also sickens me because when I was growing up, we didn't have school shootings. I never heard of one at all growing up. And the only shootings that, like maybe we call mass shootings, and I'll get into that in a little bit. Mass shootings, the only ones that I ever heard about when I was growing up in the 70s and early 80s were what we call going postal. And there was a time that in the 70s and 80s where for some reason some postal workers went nuts and came into their post office or where the dispatch office or wherever they worked and shot up the place. So if you ever heard the expression going postal, that is where it comes from. Going postal is when a postal worker would go into, it could be a mailman, mail person, somebody who worked in the office, some sort of disgruntled employee would go postal and shoot up the place. Since 1999, the Columbine school shooting, the media and everybody's attention really has on school shootings has really increased. Our attention on it has increased, and I'm pretty sure the numbers of school shootings have increased, and that's really very, very sick. I don't live in the United States anymore. I've lived here in Europe for over 30 years. I live in Switzerland, and we don't have school shootings. There isn't a worldwide consensus on what constitutes a mass shooting because different countries have different cultures. So a mass shooting in the United States might not be the same thing that they call a mass shooting or the type of mass shooting in another country. Other countries might have tribal mass shootings or gang mass shootings, or different types of things. But to measure the amount or percentage of mass shootings in the world is also, there's no real consensus on that. Some places measure by per capita. Some places measure by in millions, how many per million of a population. But in the United States, they consider a mass shooting to be where 4 or more people are injured or killed. And so that's what I'm going to go by when I talk about the numbers. Because, like I said, different cultures have different reasons for their mass shootings, perhaps. But we're staying with the 4 or more injured or killed. And so you might be wondering, well, Mr. Robbie, you're no expert. I know I'm not an expert. So, Mr. Robbie, where are you getting your numbers from? Well, here we have on the BBC News or BBC website, how many U.S. mass shootings have there been in 2024? And this was says one day ago, but this is a couple of days ago. This was printed. So it says mass shootings are on the rise. There have been more than 385 mass shootings across the U.S. so far this year. And as I said, mass shootings in the U.S., incidents in which 4 or more people were killed or injured. So 385 mass shootings across the U.S. so far this year. And that this number is as of September 5th. How many guns are in the United States? Well, they do a ratio of 120.5 firearms per 100 residents, which is up from 88 per 100 in 2011. So top civilian gun-owning countries, United States tops the list. Look at that, 120.5 per 100 residents. You can do the math on that. I'm 380 or 330, however many people, millions of people there are in the United States. You can do the math. I'm not going to do it. I'm not a mathematician. And here are how Americans feel about U.S. gun laws. They should be more strict, the majority say. More strict. Interesting, because Congress, which is, as far as gun control laws are concerned, is, like Mary said, controlled by the NRA and their money and their lobbyists. Here are some states with assault weapons restrictions. The blue, they're regulated but do not ban assault weapons. Washington, Minnesota, Virginia. States with assault weapon bans. So there are 10 here. California, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, Washington, D.C. And yeah, Hawaii's on the list? Yeah, yes, Hawaii. I don't know what the gray means, that they don't talk about that. A number of states have also gone as far as to largely eliminate restrictions on who can carry a gun. For example, this was big news. Governor Abbott in Texas signed into law a permitless carry bill, which allows the state's residents to carry handguns without a license or training. This is from the Rockefeller Institute of Government. In the aftermath of the 1999 shooting at Columbine High School, there has been extensive media coverage, public concern, and calls for action surrounding public mass shootings in the United States. That's exactly what I was talking about before and what Mary said earlier. But they do nothing. There's public concern, media coverage, and calls for action, but nothing substantial is done. Sure, they ban add-ons and certain things you can do to change a gun, but they don't ban the guns. And if you want, and I don't have the chart, but it's already been known that when there was an assault rifle ban, murders and mass shootings went down. And then when that, for some reason, they let that bill expire, and they didn't renew it somehow. They didn't vote for renewing it. The United States makes up 33% of the combined population of these 36 countries. However, it also accounts for 76% of mass public shooting incidents and 70% of victim fatalities in these countries. So let's look at these countries here. Whoa, look at that. United States 109. Oh, where'd it go? Okay, United States 109. France 6, Germany 5, Canada 4. And the numbers just go down and down. And look at that. United States, number 1, 109. Here I am in Switzerland, 2. 2 mass shootings in 23 years. And this has got to make a lot of people very angry. It makes me very angry. It makes me very, very angry. When I was growing up, and I'll go back to that again because I am an old man and we talk about the past. When I was growing up, and I said before, we didn't have these mass shootings in schools. Like I said, there were the going postal people, but again, that wasn't. It was big news, but it wasn't an ongoing thing for very long. Maybe for a couple of years there were these incidents. I don't know how many there were, but there were enough for the phrase to be coined, going postal. But looking at this chart here of the world map, United States is in blue. That is France there. Here's Switzerland right there. Let's see, blow that up. Switzerland, total mass shooting deaths, 8. Total. United States, total mass shooting deaths, 199. What is the time period of this? Okay, this chart might be earlier than the last chart we saw that showed 385. They don't have a date here, but as you can see, the numbers are very high. Let's look at another country. France, total mass shooting deaths. 1 total mass shooting deaths. Russia, 12. China, well, we don't have that information because, communist country, they don't let that information out. Italy, 4. The U.S. endures the most mass shootings in the world with, depending upon one's definition of a mass shooting, as we just discussed before, we're going with the 4 or more people killed or injured, somewhere between 21 and more than 600 in 2020. 2015 PolitiFact article correcting then President Obama's statement that no other advanced country experiences mass shootings like the U.S. cited data from 2000 to 2014 to prove that mass shootings do indeed happen in other advanced countries. However, the article conceded that the U.S. experienced 133 shootings during that period, 2000 to 2014, while the next highest total was Germany with 6. When I was growing up, we didn't have police in the schools. There was no need for it. When I first heard about that being done, I heard about it, well, because I was in New York, I lived in New York, there were police in some of the public schools in New York City. Not just Manhattan, but the Bronx and Brooklyn and all of the 5 boroughs, but not in every school. But that was the first time I ever heard of that. And then, well, I grew up on Long Island. I was born in Brooklyn, and I grew up on Long Island, not in a rich neighborhood, not at all. But again, we didn't have school shootings. It is a phenomenon that I can only explain by thinking there are just too many guns and not enough strict gun laws. I live in Switzerland, and there are roughly close to 9 million people in this country, about 8.9 million. And so I wanted to see exactly how many guns there are in Switzerland. Well, this is what Google shows number of guns in circulation in Switzerland. The 2017 report from Small Arms Survey has estimated that the number of civilian held firearms in Switzerland is 2.3 million, which, given a population of 8.4 million, corresponds to a gun ownership of around 27.6 guns per 100 residents. Okay, I don't know anybody with a gun. I've, at least not knowingly, known anybody with a gun in my whole life, in any country that I've lived in. Civilian held firearms in Switzerland. I don't know all of the statistics. I do know that many of the guns that people own in Switzerland are used for hunting, because hunting is big in Switzerland. Switzerland's army is technically a militia, so they're not civilians, but they do have to keep their guns at home. Whoever's in the army, whoever's been issued a rifle or whatever kind of gun they have in the army, but again, it's a militia, so they have to keep it at home. So those are not included in the civilian-held firearms. Now, this is a 2017 number. I don't know what the number is now, but let's look at this. What country has the most guns in total? America, of course. 393 million civilian-held firearms in circulation, both legal and illegal. So there are more guns in the United States than there are people. That is terrible. How many guns per 100 people in the U.S.? 120.5 firearms. And again, that's legal and illegal. I don't believe, and like I think most sane people, I don't believe that having a gun in the United States is a God-given right. This is something that the maggots, the morons, believe. Maybe not all of them believe that, but many of them do, and they say it out loud. It's their God-given right. Well, it's not a God-given right. It is a right given by the government, and that right can be taken away. It can be restricted. And look, call me a bleeding heart if you want. I don't care. These school shootings just have to end somehow. They have to, and mass shootings, of course, have to end. But the school shootings, when there's one, there's another one, and we just saw that this week. At least two, this week that were reported on. Now, we don't hear about all of the mass shootings of 4 or more people injured or killed. Maybe we should hear more about all of them that happen every day, or every week, or every month. Not only school shootings, not only mass shootings in a bar or from a hotel room on a concert, overlooking a concert. Maybe we should be hearing more about all of the others that are happening in the United States. So, what can be done? Well, first of all, I am very happy. I'm glad that the father of the kid who shot 4 people in Georgia the other day, the father has been arrested for buying his kid a gun, or at least giving him access to a gun. Remember that other kid last year, Crumbly was his name, and his parents were also arrested because they gave him access, or they bought him the gun that he used to kill students in his school. More of that has to be done, I think. Is it a deterrent? It could be. It could be. But it also has to be a punishment. There has to be a punishment for the parents or legal guardians or whoever gives um, access to or buys a gun for a child. But that also isn't enough. The laws have to change in every state. There can be no permitless carry gun laws. That is just a ridiculous thing. So anybody can have a gun in Texas. Who cares, right? Everybody in Texas can now have a gun, walk around with a gun on their hip or in their pocket or in their purse. They don't have to be trained, they don't have to be registered, they don't have to be licensed, nothing. The Wild West still exists. So what else can be done? As I said, the laws have to change. And the only way that we can get the laws to change is by voting blue on every ballot that you have, whether it's local, state, or federal. We have to vote good people into office. People who have sense, people who know the difference between right and wrong. The difference, and it's the people have to be safe in their homes, in their schools, in their shopping centers, in the malls, in their post offices. And the only way that more people can be safe at any given time is to have stronger and better gun laws, gun control laws, gun restriction laws, who can have a gun, who can't have a gun, whether it's for hunting or not. There has to be some more psychological assessment of some people. Maybe not just some people, but a lot of people, perhaps. The boy in this Baltimore suburb this week apparently had at least 10 different instances of contact because of his behavior, whatever it was in the past, with police, and nothing was done. Nothing was done to stop him from going into the school with his gun and using it in a fight in a bathroom. Ridiculous. I hope that the parents of that child are also arrested. I don't know the details of that yet, but there hasn't been a lot of, at least I haven't seen a whole lot of news about that, because it wasn't a mass shooting. It was a fight in a bathroom where one child brought a gun. So maybe that's not big news. Maybe that's not big enough news for the major news media outlets. But I do know anyway that the only way to get these things under control is to have better gun control. And I don't care if you call me a bleeding heart, you call me a libtard if you want. I don't give a shit. Doesn't hurt my feelings, because I know what's right. I know that there are good people in the government whose hands are tied, and we have to get them into a position where they can make a difference, where they can change laws, whether it's local, state, or federal. Because when you have people like J.D. Vance saying school shootings are just a normal fact of life, and when you have Donald Trump saying about school shootings or mass shootings, we have to get over it, we have to move on, those attitudes get nothing changed. With those attitudes, nothing changed. With that mindset, nothing changes. Because if those people or those types of people are in power, nothing will change. Things will just get worse. And that is the reason why we have to vote people with a conscience into office. We have to vote people who don't think that school shootings or mass shootings are something we just have to get over and move on because it's just a fact of life. As I have said, I'm not definitely not a politician. I would never want to be a politician, but I'm not a journalist. I'm not any kind of psychoanalyst. I'm not anything that you might think I am. I'm just a regular person who has concerns about my country. Even though I don't live there, it's still my country. And I don't want to see more children or anybody killed in mass shootings. Whenever there's an American holiday coming up, I always think to myself, and I actually say it out loud to myself, well, 4th of July is coming. I wonder how many gun deaths there are going to be. Memorial Day is coming. I wonder how many shootings there are going to be at picnics this year. It's, I don't want to think those things, but those are the things that I think of because the day after the 4th of July or 4th of July evening or Memorial Day or whatever holiday it is in the United States, that day or the next day, the news is filled with shootings. Mass shootings or arguments that end up in a shooting at a picnic, at a park, at a barbecue. I want one day to not think like that anymore. Am I the only one who thinks like that? Do you also think like that? Do you also dread certain holidays that come up in the United States, 4th of July or Memorial Day or Labor Day or just the beginning of school season, and think, well, it's hunting season, it's shooting season now. It's the 4th of July, there's going to be guns. It's Memorial Day, it's Labor Day, there's going to be gunfights, there's going to be shootings. It's the beginning of school. Another 8 months or 9 months of who knows how many school shootings there are going to be this year. Do you think like that too? Do you want to keep thinking like that? Vote blue. State, local, and federal. That's the only way anything is ever going to get done. Like they say, be the change. Be the change that you want. Let me know what you think in the comments below, because I think this is a very important discussion to have, and because I know that there are like-minded people on this channel and on YouTube and in the world. There are people who think the same way as me, or perhaps as you and us. So please leave a comment, and I hope that you will subscribe and hit the bell for more videos. But I'm just a guy with a camera and a microphone, and sometimes I have something to say, and I'm very happy and grateful that that all of you are here and take part in discussions. Please, like I said, leave your comments below if you have anything to say or to add to what I have said. I'm not an expert. I don't know all of the ins and outs of gun ownership or gun laws. but I do know that many of you have opinions, and I'd like to hear them. So this is Mr. Robbie saying, be safe and look after your kids. Don't give them guns, and you'll see me later. Now I want to just leave you with something that Patrick Fitzgerald, another YouTuber who is a songwriter, singer-songwriter. He does a lot of parodies and spoofs. He's very talented, very funny, but he put out this video a few days ago, and well, it speaks for itself.
As the sheriff mentioned earlier this morning, the shooter is in custody. He is a 14-year-old student here at the high school.
While we'd really like to stop this, there is nothing we can do. The moment that we hear more shots, we'll send along our prayers and thoughts, then whisper into funeral plots, there's nothing we can do. A shooter running up the stairs, we'll send along our thoughts and prayers. That man from Georgia sits and swears, there's nothing we can do. But when we do not get our way and do not win election day, to action and without delay, we'll gladly stage a coup. We cleared the schools of CRT, of rainbows and LGBT, and any sport where she's a he, such easy things to do. So lest you think our hands are tied or that we're simply paralyzed, just think of all the things untried, there's so much we could do.